Right, I guess we'd better just get straight into it. I've been watching crafting videos. I went down a rabbit hole, complete rabbit hole. Originally it started with North of the Border. I was watching him make all these things out of clay, really cool things. And I thought, yeah, I could do that. I can do that. Off I went, spent an obscene amount of money on just buying a ton of supplies. And here we are today. So with this make, like, you've got to keep in mind, I've never made anything before. Like my day job is a tattoo artist, so I scribble on people for a living. But as far as like clay work goes, and you know, actually making dioramas and stuff, that is vastly out of my comfort zone. So yeah, it started, I pretty much flew by the seat of my pants for this entire thing. I decided off the bat that my first make was going to be a Pokemon diorama. I really wanted it to be a Gengar, but I like my dark stuff. And I wanted it to be a Gengar killing a Pikachu. Pikachu getting caught in a blast of toxic smog, maybe like a dark pulse or a shadow ball, something like that. Oh god, it's stuck to the mat. So yeah, that was the original brainchild. So off I went after I'd kind of figured out what I had this image in my head, and I actually got a new sketchbook arrived today. So I think I'm going to be drawing down like the ideas that I have going forward so that I can use them as reference. It was really fun playing with the clay. It took me a while to get used to it, definitely. Honestly, the whole thing's just been like one insane learning curve. Like, I mean, you know, you can watch Bill making stuff, Dan does, North of the Border, you know, all of you big boys, Greg Johnson, and you can make these mental notes, and then the minute you actually sit down to do the stuff, vanishes. I mean, it'd probably help if I had a reference picture of Gengar. I know what he looks like, but yeah, let's go find a reference picture of Gengar. Speaking of reference photos, I had this up for like this one frame, and then I completely forgot about it. Completely and utterly forgot about it. It's just insane. I may as well have not wasted the battery on my iPad. But to be fair, the mouth was pretty tricky. I just couldn't get it right. In the end, I ended up actually dremeling it. I cut into it to make it wider. Thankfully that worked out, but you know, this whole thing has just been one discovery after another. But one of the things I realised was how sensual clay is. Insanely so. Like, I don't know, I felt pretty sexy. I felt pretty sexy working with it. I just didn't have no big strong man behind me helping me. Or is that maybe pottery? Maybe that is pottery. Yeah. I really didn't have a clue a lot of the time. You have to remember, up until this point, I had just been binge watching North of the Border, Bill making stuff, Dan does. So far, so good. I think. I don't know what I'm doing. all the big boys, the big crafting boys. When I grow up, I want to be just like them. But you know, first we've kind of got to get a handle on all this stuff. I mean, it's looking at their tech, you know, the cameras and everything else. They all have such fancy stuff. So I'm starting humble. I'm starting small, as one should, unless you have the money to start grand, of course. Bit of a side note, working with these gloves was also a total nightmare. I got these from my studio. They're meant more for tattooing than they are for clay, but you know, thought I'd use them anyway. Yeah, we live and learn. So these back spikes, they were really therapeutic. I really enjoyed doing them. Although I kind of whiffed it. I started with the butt, and I should have started at the head and worked down, because when I started to craft the spiny fur in the middle of his back, that was just a whole juggling process. So I've not long since woken up, hence why my hair is a mess. Yesterday was a very busy day for Gengar. We did a whole load of baking, and I'm going to show you what he looks like at the moment. So this is the boy. As you can see, I've kind of roughed out where his eyes are going to be. He's got his little spooky hands and his tiny little thumbs, which I love. His back. I've had a few mishaps with cracking, but I've stuck a little bit of bacon bond over it, and I'm kind of hoping that it holds out. I mean, it's pretty sturdy now. And I did his feet. I did his little feet last night. Today, it's going to be the eyes and the teeth, hopefully. I don't really know how the teeth are going to work. And the tongue, because Gengar has a big old tongue. And then I think that's his body done. Totally. I don't know. We'll see. So he's starting to come together, he really is. Now, the reason why his body is two different colours is because basically I had an absolute metric ton of old clay that I found. So I must have had the vision before, many years prior, and then just never got round to it. So it was super hard and gross, so I figured, well, you know, instead of cracking out the new clay that I've got, maybe I can use up some of the old clay, which is why his arms and his back and his little feetsies and his legs are all in that weird, gross flesh clay colour. See, other thing as well, I've with minimal time working with clay, like trying to do Gengar was easy. Trying to mold out Pikachu, that was pretty tough. Because obviously he's smaller. If you look at Gengar, he's a thick old boy, and Pikachu's even though he's chunky, he's quite a dainty little mouse compared. So it took a while to get the sort of horrified, screaming expression and the little hands. Ah, there we go. Looking suitably horrified. Do you know what? I'd make a pretty good Pokemon trainer. I'm very kind to my Pokemon. Go see then. So, on to a little more armature. I mean, actually, do you know what? No. Even though this is future me narrating past me, this was the first part of the armature that I used. Gengar didn't have one. He was just foil. He was foil, and then I used my Dremel after I'd made his mouth and stuff originally, because his mouth was a little too small. And let me tell you, with this armature stuff, my god, there's nothing quite as satisfying as sticking 3mm armature into a 3mm drilled hole. It's very satisfying. I didn't think it would be, but here we are. So even though Pikachu looks really creepy and weird, there is method in the madness. There is. It's, you know, you're not gonna see Pikachu's body. It's gonna be an action shot scenario. He's going to be diving for his life, trying to escape this miasma, this smog that Gengar is belching out. So I figured, well, you know, we can't be wasting clay. He could feed starving kids in Africa with the amount of clay that we've lost. So let's just not do it. I mean, let's feed starving kids, just not the, you know what I mean. So this took a little bit of like janking around. I wanted armature I wanted it to be on a, God, what do you call it? Like a reverse cantilever? Is that the word? So it looked like Gengar was floating. But to do that, I needed to have the wires coming out of his mouth. And he was a thick old boy, so he wouldn't lift off of the ground. Now, when you see Dando's bill making stuff north of the border, whenever they have to use the thick armature wire, they have a drill to twist it. I didn't. I had to twist the little bugger by hand, and it was a whole thing, so I think that's going to be next on my shopping list for sure. See, another thing that I really could do with getting is maybe like a burning tool, like a pyrograph machine. The wood burning tools, the melty things for melting away at my foam, because I'd rather risk the various lung diseases of melting it away than having to cut into all of that again. It was a nightmare. This part was quite fun though. So the foam that I used for the cobblestones, I think that was just packaging. It came in an Amazon delivery. I can't remember what it was, but I must have spent about an hour just cutting it into loads of little bricks. This was a good couple of weeks before I even started this project, so I'd already been thinking about it. I'd already been dancing with the idea of it.
Hello there.
Blocking out Gengar's eyes was a nightmare in and of itself. I tried to use painter's tape, totally failed. Ended up going with blue tack to protect his eyes in the end, which really worked. I'll definitely be using blue tack again for masking when it comes to tricky parts anyway. So the flocking, I've never flocked a thing in my life. I've only ever seen it done on videos and with the static grass applicators and the static boxes and all that stuff. I know that with the sort of spreading like ground flock, like I think this stuff is, it just kind of had to be put on normally. And obviously, you know, there's only one thing that you can do with your leftover flock. May as well turn it into a party while we're here.
Bruh.
The wires. See, I got so many things mixed up in this initial make. So I should have primed everything, like the background, I should have painted everything, or like the floor, kitted it out with my own crusted soil, cocoa-y fibre stuff before putting the lights on. Totally didn't do that. Completely forgot about what order I needed to be doing everything in. So, you know, we know for next time. We learn and we grow. So he's coming along. He's come on quite a bit, actually, and I think it's because between frames I was just so obsessed with getting progress done. I forgot to film quite a lot of it. So you'll have to forgive the lack of concentration there on my part. He is a British Gengar, so he needs those coffee yellow stained teeth. Now, UV resin is another thing never used before. Completely whiffed it on the first eye. I had no idea how quickly it dried. No idea. So when I added it on his first eye, I was trying to mould it and then it ended up going all weird and ganky. Did it for Pikachu as well, because I, instead of making eyes, I just made divots and then made a little white speck because it's an inverted, like a hole. Is it concave? The eyes actually follow you depending on where you go. You can kind of see that there. The airbrush. Again, airbrush, never use an airbrush. Got a cheap one on Amazon just to have a play around with it. It were a nightmare, but I've kind of got the hang of it. And then the lights. Oh, words cannot describe how good that felt. It's been a long one. It's been about 2.5 weeks since I set out to do this diorama. I've never used polymer clay. I've only ever used the crappy Das drying clay. I've never made a diorama. I've never used flock. Ow. I've never used an airbrush. Had to order an airbrush to try this thing out. Never used one of these things before. It has been a good few weeks of trials and tribulations, and to be honest, to say that it's the first kind of diorama, first make that I've ever made, I'm actually pretty chuffed with it. I'm pretty chuffed with it. There's some stuff that sucked, but I learnt from it. So does that not make it a win? I guess we'd better get round to glamour shots, eh? If you can really call it a glamour shot. I mean, I don't have a light box or anything. I had to fudge it using Amazon cardboard and black primer. It'll do. So we've reached the end. That took a while, didn't it? Thank you so much for watching this far. If you've made it this far, in fact, if you've made it this far, do me a favour, drop a comment of your favourite animal. There we go. That ought to test you. Favourite animal. Shouldn't be too hard. I want to work on some Binding of Isaac bosses. Something a little simpler, a little smaller, just so that I don't get burnt out completely. But I've really enjoyed this one. Have a good one, guys, and see you next time.